Hi everybody, I'm Hollie Grant and I'm the founder of the Bump Plan pre- and postnatal fitness plans that have helped tens of thousands of women stay active during and after their pregnancies since we launched in December 2020. Now I'm often asked, which exercises can I not do when I'm pregnant? But actually I am more about what can we do when we're pregnant. I think it's really important that we're talking about all of the myriad things that you can continue to do during pregnancy, rather than saying you must not do this. But there are some swaps that we can do that might make some of the exercises or positions that we did pre-pregnancy more comfortable or more effective now that we are pregnant. And I'm going to take you through the top 5 that I find are really helpful for women when they get pregnant. So first of all, I want to talk to you about engaging and using your core. Often when women get pregnant, they think that they must avoid all core exercises. They are worried about diastasis, which is completely normal and completely common during pregnancy. And so they think that they must avoid all core work. Well, first of all, that is not true. And essentially it's just a swap. Instead of working our rectus abdominis muscles at the front, doing loads and loads of crunches at a time where there are some significant changes happening in the core because of your growing bump, it's better really if we think about engaging our transverse muscle or strengthening our corset muscle. Now this is a muscle that wraps around the trunk and provides a huge amount of stability to your spine and your pelvis at a time where we're growing a heavy bump at the front. So it's not so much a case of do not do core work, it's more that we're going to be swapping out loads and loads of crunches, which are going to be strengthening those front abs, and instead thinking about more of a general transverse and pelvic floor core engagement. Now a great exercise for that, which I love, is a little bit of abdominal scooping. So I come down onto my hands and knees, so I'm down on 4-point kneeling, and I let my tummy soften. So I let my abdominals relax, I let my baby hang down. And then I take a nice big deep breath in, and as I exhale, I just gently think about hugging my baby in. And on the inhale, I let my tummy release back down. So it's not aggressively sucking the belly button in. We definitely don't want to be doing that, but instead it's a feeling of gently hugging our babies in, or imagining that we're doing up a belt or a corset, feeling that gentle lift that transverse causes, and then letting it go and release. And there are so many exercises that you can do to strengthen that transverse muscle. We do lots of them in the Bump Plan so that you are not limited at all. Now, thinking about this position here, down on hands and knees, the second swap I want us to be thinking about is when it comes to our wrists. During pregnancy, carpal tunnel syndrome is a bit more common, but in general, just discomfort when we're weight bearing on our hands can be quite common. We're carrying more weight now, so we're of course going to be loading those wrists a bit more. So let's say I was down here in hands and knees and I was doing a glute kickback, and I found that actually my wrists were really, really uncomfortable here. Then I could start thinking about some alternatives. Now, one of them is coming up onto the fist instead. So having your hand in a fist position, so your wrist is more neutral, and resting on the knuckles. Now, it's not ideal, but it's definitely more comfortable, so it's a short-term fix. Other alternatives are we could come down onto the forearms. As long as you don't feel like your bump is affecting how you breathe or how comfortable you are, we could work down here. We could also think about actually maybe bringing ourselves up a little bit. So I might rest over a Pilates ball. I could even rest my arms on the arm of a sofa or a foot puff. And another option would be rolling up a towel and putting it under the ball of my hands so that my wrists aren't so creased here, and actually they're slightly elevated, which will be more comfortable. So that is your second option or your second swap if you find weight bearing on your wrists is uncomfortable. The third swap, when we get past 16 weeks, roughly, of our pregnancy, it's not advisable that we lie flat on our backs for too long, around 3 minutes or longer, because there's something called supine hypertensive syndrome. So we don't want to really be doing exercises where we were lying on our back for long periods of time, but we can definitely swap those out and put ourselves up on an incline. Now, you could either get lots of pillows or a wedge, which is a cushion shaped like a wedge of cheese, and you could lie on that so that you're on an incline. But a swap that I really like is actually using a ball and popping it sort of around my bra or between my shoulder blades, so that most of my effort is going through my shoulders here, which is great for strengthening my shoulders. I've also got some support from the ball, and I've got a great view of my core here. So I can do things like my knee folds, I can do single leg extensions, and I've got a really good view of how my core is coping with that movement. So pop yourself onto an incline if you want to swap out some of the exercises that you used to do lying flat on your back that maybe are no longer comfortable anymore, and instead swapping them out for being up on an incline. Now, number 4 is impact. Often we think that when we're pregnant we can't bounce around because there's a baby in there. But remember that your baby is cushioned. They are within lots of amniotic fluid, they're happy in there, and we're probably bouncing around when we don't even realise, running for the bus, having sex. So there are going to be plenty of us who still feel happy doing things like regular jumping jacks, plyo lunges throughout some of our pregnancy, maybe not all the way through, but it really depends, how do you feel? Are you leaking? Does your chest mind when you're bouncing around? If you're leaking or it's uncomfortable on your chest, scale it back to a low impact option. So there are so many low impact options of some of your favorite high impact exercises that you can swap them out for, that will be more comfortable for you, that will maybe keep you at your moderate intensity that we're aiming for during pregnancy, and that may just put your mind at rest. But remember that baby is actually fine in there. And the 5th thing to think about, this 5th swap, is actually just thinking about some of the exercises you're doing. Are they working with pregnant posture or against it? Now, during pregnancy, there are some postural changes that are quite common. Not everybody will experience them, but lots of us will. And the most common one is going to be about this kind of pregnant posture. When we have a bump growing here, the tendency is for the pelvis to be pulled forwards by the weight of that bump. So look at that big deep curve in my lower back, and that can switch off my glutes. So rather than doing loads of back extension work that's kind of then just going even further into our pregnant posture, maybe we think about swapping it out for exercises that will help balance it out. So more glute work. Thinking about really drawing up through the pelvic floor and the abdominals to help keep that posture. Another thing that we love doing when we're pregnant is standing in turnout and just sinking into our hips and hanging out. Sometimes that happens when our glutes aren't firing because it's kind of like a cheat. So rather than doing loads of sumo squats in turnout or loads of clams, maybe we think about working in more of a neutral stance, or maybe even a bit of medial rotation. So we're swapping out exercises that are only going to make that posture more exaggerated, and instead trying to balance our posture back out. So I hope you found that helpful, but essentially I just want to stress that there is so much more that we can do during pregnancy than we can't do. And often it's not a case of you can't do this, it's a case of you might just want to think about tweaking this slightly so it's more comfortable or more effective during pregnancy. Now, if you found that helpful, there is so much more information about how to exercise safely during pregnancy over on our Instagram page, The Bump Plan, or you can sign up for a 7-day free trial of the Bump Plan, either pre or postnatal, by heading to the bio in the Bump Plan Instagram page too. So I hope you found that helpful, and I hope you enjoy staying active during your pregnancy. Bye!